Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. That's the theme of International Women's Day 2022, attempting to recognize the contribution of women and girls around the world who are leading the charge to build a sustainable future for all. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Perspective, commemorating the International Women's Day this year. I'm Tina Jha. 8th of March, as you all know, is dedicated to celebrate the cultural, political and socio-economic achievements of women across the world. But do you also know that Women's Day is also an occasion marking a call to a gender-equal world, which is free of bias, stereotypes and discrimination, and one that is diverse, equitable and inclusive? While achieving that is a long way ahead for the world community, what's significant is that in the process, women have shattered barriers, broken glass ceilings, and with their grit, written stories of their empowerment in diverse fields. 3 such women who have made it right to the top in the world of business are joining us on the program today to share their thoughts and perspective with us. So let me first introduce them to you. It's my pleasure to welcome on Sansad TV today Mrs. Lalita Nijhawan. She's Director, Nijhawan Group of Companies. She's the International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenges Global Ambassador as well. And earlier, she served as the National Treasurer of FICCI's Women's Wing, the FLO. Mrs. Nijhawan, welcome to Sansad TV. I also have with me, joining us virtually on the program today, Anu Acharya. She's founder and CEO, Map My Genome, which is a personal genomics company which specializes in clinical genomics and molecular diagnostics. Thank you, Anu, for joining us on the program. And I'll come to you and ask you to simplify what actually your company does for our viewers. And the third guest joining us on the program is Saji Rajgaria. She's co-founder and COO of Food Cloud, which is an online portal that connects foodies with home chefs and caterers across Delhi NCR. Thank you, Saji, and welcome to Sansad TV. Mrs. Nijhawan, since, among the 3 of you, your experience as an entrepreneur has been the most. You've been in this field for close to 3 decades now. Let me begin by asking you, how much of a transformation do you see from then when you started off to now? How equitable is the industry now for women? How welcoming is it? So what are the kind of changes that you see over these couple of decades?
Well, there have been a sea change in the whole system. I remember when I started and wanted to be in the business, it was very difficult. And the society was not ready. And somewhere we must have had the nerves of steel to take it forward. And what I feel happy is that we have been able to create a platform for the younger ones. And also, firstly, even I'm noticing even the government is very friendly with the women, because even their policies or their grants or their, I'm also noticing there are a lot of training seminars, and I also notice workshops and even mentors, who are picking up these girls and training them up, which was not so. And for us, it was, firstly, it was not accepted. So it was to get out of the house and to work. We had to finish all the duties and the responsibilities which came along with the work. And also in my business, because I'm from travel, so we had to get in. We had to have a lot of parties or throwing parties, so that because that was our business, that they were our clients who were traveling. Not many people used to travel when I started. We were representing British Airways and American Airlines in India. So I remember we used to be working till about having parties till 2 a.m. and then getting up in the morning at 6 and then sending children to school. I mean, there was not even the way the girls are getting help. It was not so. So I remember I only used to sleep for 4 hours, I remember in the younger days to cope up. So it was not only that, even when if there was a sick at home, and those days many the elderly wouldn't go to hospitals, and there was no home care facilities as we have now. So we had to take care of the elderly also, which we could not just walk out of the home. We had to take care of them, go to our offices and keep working for us. And also to be in office, we had to prove, and we had to work triply harder than our men to prove that, we are capable. And want to add here, and I remember when I had to learn computers, which was much later when my son was 16 or 17, it was so difficult. So because we were known family in airlines, so even to go to a training school, I had to change my name. So even the teachers over there were very surprised that just to learn, a woman wants to change the name to learn the different tacts of running the whether it was the airlines calculation, and we were working harder. Now you have computers, so it's different. We used to have such thick books to carry the fares of destination between from in Delhi to London, or maybe the side trips. We had to calculate all mileages to calculate the fare. So, but yes, it was a very hard journey for me, because I had to work very, very hard to prove myself, and I feel
and not
great
just
now.
at work. It's the domestic responsibilities which hold back the woman in our society, particularly. And every successful woman in India has a similar story, wherein she has to go the extra mile, balance between professional and personal lives. So let me go across to Anu Acharya and understand from her. Anu, first of all, take us through how your journey has been. And I'm sure this question would have been posed to you several times, but because what's interesting about your work area is it's something that a lot of people are not familiar with. It's a very intriguing question about, what genomics is actually all about. And to begin something in this venture sounds very interesting, but I'm sure you would also, like, Mrs. Nijavan pointed out, your journey would also have been full of challenges. So what's your story? And if you could share with us and our viewers a little more about your venture.
Certainly. So I started on my entrepreneurial journey more than 20 years ago. Graduated from IIT Kharagpur and was in the US for about 6 years. I think that was around the time when a lot of startup activity in the US had started. This is prior to Google. So it was very exciting. Every day we were thinking about a new plan. But at the point when the Human Genome Project was just getting completed, this sounded like a very exciting idea for us to be able to say, maybe this is something worth, starting a business and going back to India from the US and getting this started, because there is a need, and there is this excitement about being able to decode what is the software of our own lives. So I think that was the excitement about doing something that could potentially impact millions of people, I think, was what was exciting about this whole project. And that was when we moved back to India in 2000, end of 2000. So I started my first company, Ossimum Biosolutions, at that time. And we were 3 co-founders in the company, Subhash and Dr. Sujata. And I think while we started off, it was, we had to go through several changes in terms of what we wanted to do with the venture, because there were changes in being a new area. I think there were changes in patent laws. There were changes in the way we anticipated the business to turn out to be. So over a period of the next 12, 13 years, we followed a very unusual path. We did a lot of global acquisitions. We became the largest genomic services player worldwide. So we had labs in the US, in the Netherlands, and in India. And we worked with pretty much every large pharmaceutical company that was possible out there. Mm-hmm. But I think there was one challenge that was constantly bothering me. And I think that was that when you look at where medicine was headed, where healthcare was headed, all of that was moving towards what we call as precision medicine, or medicine that basically needs a lot of data underneath it, and genomic data primarily. And we had been in that space for more than 12, 13 years. And there was not a way for us to, if we were not the ones who are going to go in and contribute towards that for the average common person, then I felt that we were not doing our, what we were cut out to be with the background that we had. So I think that is where we said, maybe if we can come up with a product that is easy for people to use, that allows us to tackle 2 problems at once, which is, of course, the fact that we don't have enough of Indian genomic data that can help us go towards a precision medicine. But the second was also another problem that we as Indians faced, which was that we were going to a doctor very late. We almost wanted to wait till something happened before we actually go and see a medical professional. By the time, it's many times it's too late. So if we can look at it from a preventive wellness perspective, I think we felt that was something that was worth starting a new venture in. And that's how Map My Genome was born. And we started with a product that we called as the Genome Patri, like a Janam Patri, because he said that, the Indian population was not used to, doing something in genetics, which was not a disorder, that was not finding out whether it's somebody's mother or father from a forensic point of view. So we said, how do you get people to connect to something that is going to be relevant to all of us, but something that we all can connect to? And that's how we started with the Genome Patri.
Very,
and I
very
think just
interesting,
before we
all
were
of it
starting,
sounds. But I am sure, I mean, the kind of challenges you would have faced in the sense, not just at your personal front, balancing between work and personal lives, because all of us, for women, it's difficult. And as Mrs. Nijavan was saying, to balance our family lives, because all of us would have that guilt, especially when we become mothers, to, not leave our child alone at home and give more hours at workplaces, but also in the sense of, raising funds to convince people what the idea is all about. And I'll come back to that in the second round of questions and understand further as to how you actually sail through those challenges and how you can inspire the others who are actually looking to entering this particular sector. But let me also bring in Sanji. And very interestingly, Sanji, when I was reading about Food Cloud, I've seen you on some of our shows earlier as well. And what's very interesting about Food Cloud is it's like a socio-economic revolution in the country, because kitchen activities in India are solely considered to be the primary responsibility of women. So to give wings, and making women financially independent. A lot of home chefs are women. So actually, the idea to make them financially independent and to recognize their talents. Where did you get this idea from in the first place? Tell us how you conceived the idea and how it's been going so far.
So I'll tell you very honestly, our company started literally from the love of food. I enjoy eating, my co-founder enjoys eating, and we would often go to our friends, homes where their moms would cook amazing food for us. And we would always want that option to have that available to us at our desire, at our beck and call, not when we are invited to their house, but if we could call for that food when we want to eat it, it would be amazing. And that's literally where the idea of Food Cloud started from. And the deeper we dug into the problem, we realized that there are so many women who are making such amazing food. There's such a crazy regional, variety of cuisine in India, and that kind of had to be brought out into the forefront. And it's very exciting. It's personally very exciting for me that most of the entrepreneurs that we are creating happen to be women who have perhaps never thought that they would go into business of any type, because they are primarily homemakers. They haven't entered the corporate world. And suddenly we're creating this platform wherein they can monetize this pre-existing cooking skill, which is sort of, if I may say so, it's the garb under which women have been kept at home. Yes. It's the activity, that their primary activity and what they're expected to do. So, I mean, it starts from the love of food and just wanting to make great food available. But along the way, we realized that we could really create some pretty interesting impact as far as gender equality is concerned.
Okay, so that was Saji's journey about how she started her venture and how it's going. But in recent years, Mrs. Nijavan, what we've also seen is that, a lot of women entrepreneurs have come to the fore. They've done remarkably well, and that's something that we should be proud of. But if we compare ourselves to other countries globally, and since you're also the International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenges Global Ambassador, how would you compare women entrepreneurs in India to abroad?
So I'll answer your question in three parts. Coming to the global women, because of my being global ambassador, I do interact with the women from 42 countries. The problems they face are more or less the same as ours, because we do have, even they have to keep the family balance, they have to finish everything and go to work. And according to me, I mean, when I've interacted with them and I've listened to their stories, and I realize that they really go through a tough time. And I find, I mean, people may not agree, and even the statistics, I don't know what statistics they come out with. But Indian women, they are supported a lot by their families. I have noticed that the mothers or the fathers of, over here in India, if the daughters are doing well, the mother will stand by the daughter by saying, don't worry, I'll take care of your children. And the everybody comes together if the woman is really, really busy, but it's not so. And also they're always scared of their divorces, which is, that's always a sword hanging on them, then the man can leave. So whenever I've reacted, I feel that we are much better off. Your second question of, the government policies, I think recently when they came out with the maternity leave and all, that was a very good step by the government, which was liked a lot by the women. And rural women, well, yes, I mean, that's where we are lacking. But when you really interact with the rural women, because of my also, because I'm adopting certain villages, and some in Rajasthan and in Orissa as well as in Northeast, you'll be surprised that those women can shock you. They are much more empowered than you can even think of sitting here. Because I came across, this is something which shook me. So this particular bride in Rajasthan village was going on a horse to get married. So I said, well, you're on a horse. So she said, yeah, because here we do it. We go to the men's house. So, you can be surprised with how empowered those women are. It's not only we, but of course, there are still challenges over there. And we are... I think not only the government, because government is doing its job, that is something that I want to tell you, all of you, because I come from FICCI Flow, and this particular year we had last 2 years, the industrialist women, they wanted to adopt villages, and they have really worked in villages, and the skill, training these women. So it's I think the whole society, everybody's coming out to help each other when it comes to women. From all sections of the society, according to me.
Since you're, here as a representative of the FICCI ladies organization as well, let me ask you, how has the pandemic impacted the progress, especially if you talk about gender equality, the kind of progress that we made before the pandemic worldwide, but of course, the inequalities widened during the pandemic. A lot of women had to leave their work midway to take care of their household responsibilities. A lot of women had to drop out from certain assignments that they were earlier working on. So how has gender equality taken a hit after the pandemic now?
Yes. As far as my company is concerned, because we're a technology company, so I can only speak from my angle. So a lot of them were working from home. So lots of work was being carried from home, and they all were able to cope up. Coming to the small sectors of, when I'm talking of the skill development in villages, they took a big hit. They really didn't know what to do. And of course, that's the section which has to be taken care of, and people are again back to getting even their handicrafts that we asked them to make, and they were working on it, they could not sell it, easily. So yes, of course, but I think it will take a turn, definitely. Like our company was hit very badly because we were into travel and there were no aircrafts, there was no flights. So, but we kept on with our technology, and we kept evolving.
I think going forward, because the United Nations is particularly concerning inequalities of all kinds, economic, social, and of course, gender inequalities have widened after the pandemic, and countries will have to sort of re-strategize their efforts if we are to think and even talk of a society which is gender equal. Coming back to you, Anu Acharya, and let's now try and understand the kind of challenges you face beyond your personal, of course, challenges which I think all of us have to face in a society where the woman has to, it is believed that the woman has to share more responsibilities. We are still to come out of that mindset, perhaps years to go. But in the sense that you were into an area which was sort of an uncharted territory. So in terms of raising funds, the kind of challenges that you faced, in terms of finding the right workforce in the country, because the kind of work you were doing was a little not familiar here in this country. The regulation in our country about genetics, the rules and regulations which our country follows when it comes to genomics. So how did you overcome these challenges and sustain this particular venture that you began a couple of years ago?
So I think one thing that I read this was a report that, when you look at entrepreneurship and you look at men and women, then they said that for women, if your DNA basically has those right genes, then you are more likely to become an entrepreneur. For men, it's also the environment, because the environment is harsher for women than it is for men, right? So maybe it was there. I'm a Marwadi. Maybe it was in my genes. Who knows? Right? So I think one is to be able to sustain through these processes. But I think for me, the biggest advantage, I didn't have any of the problems at home because I lived in a family of 4 generations, and therefore I belong to the 3rd generation. And as a result, I think by generation I mean there's a grandmother, mother-in-law, and my kids. So I think for me, it was never a problem at home because, everything else is taken care of. And it is a great way to be able to delegate and make sure that everybody is taken care of. So I think that was never a challenge for me. Coming to the part where it was a new area, it was definitely in the beginning, we had to make sure that we could find the right kind of talent. And initially we had to source it from across the world because it was just not, just couldn't find that talent in India. But I think today, 20 years later, I think it is much easier. We have enough of talent that is there in the country. And I think a lot of universities have created very good quality of talent that is there. So that part has been, somewhat solved. But now there is a different set of talent issues that have come up because as we scale this up, there is a need for instance, hugely enhancing the number of genetic counselors that are there. So yeah, we created training programs and all for that. So one is the talent thing, of course. The second was creating of awareness. And I think for that, it obviously took a while for us to be able to do that, whether it was creating the awareness with medical professionals, whether it was creating with the average common person. But I think for us, one of the areas that really helped us and was not at all in any of our business plans was the pandemic, because I think it allowed people to understand what DNA is, what RNA is, and all of that. So I think in some way that helped us in creating that level of awareness that we would not have been able to do with that kind of capital that we were able to do. And third, of course, I think funding has not been easy for the area that I'm in. Because India is not necessarily equated to being a genomics-driven company because you're at the cutting edge. But as a result, I think what we did was to be able to create the right partnerships, to be able to create a company that is large enough and profitable.
And was the challenge, Anu, even greater? Because first, of course, genomics was an unfamiliar, uncharted territory, but also the fact that a woman was at the helm of affairs, was that kind of a twin challenge that you also had to face?
I don't know. I mean, I think it is hard to say, right? I mean, no one is, I never had bad meetings with anybody. I mean, it was always, the meetings were always fantastic. But I think in the end, I think it is a combination. I think in some ways that you have, you have an area that is new. So everybody was waiting for it to at some point come. But then someone like one of the investors once told me that you'll be small enough till you become too big. And so we said, fine, there are ways to be able to get to that point. And I think, you get to a certain size and maybe, going public is a better option if you don't want to raise money, because ultimately the point of a company is not to raise money, it is to create a business and create an impactful business. So I think that's sort of the way I look at it, that, if I've been able to do what I want to do, which is to impact 100 million lives, I can do it in a way that is, will be, you can do it in different ways. It's not about saying, can I raise $2 billion and then get a valuation of $10 billion? I think I'd be happier if I could reach the 100 million, even with, without having to raise capital. So I think, that would be the ideal situation. But I think given that we are in a space that is new, there's obviously a need for some sort of a capital to be able to expand it much more broadly than it is today.
Absolutely. Sachi, any idea is unique and successful, not just because the idea is good, but also because the kind of hard work, the kind of determination that it requires. And the fact that, the three of you are here with me in the studio talking about your successful ventures, the kind of challenges that you have faced and successfully sailed through them. But because it's a Women's Day special and we're also wanting to inspire hundreds of budding entrepreneurs who must be watching us on the program. So at such a young age, because you've been able to think out of the box and are sharing your views today with us, what would be your message to those viewers who actually want to think out of the box, but due to lack of support, due to lack of guidance, they may not be able to come out in the open? So what would be your message to all of those young girls who actually want to do something similar?
I think the message is very simple. It's the same message I'd give to any boy who came to me with an idea. which is just to back yourself. At the end of the day, everybody will have some kind of disadvantage, whether it's lack of capital, whether it's lack of education, lack of network, whatever it may be. It's just about having confidence in yourself, backing yourself, finding a great mentor who you can bounce ideas off, somebody who can guide you, somebody who has experience in the domain that you want to work in. Back yourself, find a great mentor, and give it a shot. Because unless you try, you will never know if you're going to succeed or fail. And that's all it takes. It's just trying and backing yourself.
Mrs. Nijavan, one final word from you for the budding entrepreneurs.
My advice to young entrepreneurs is that firstly, if you know your goal, you know what you want to achieve, you work with a passion. You'll find the ways, whether you find the mentors or people, you talk to people, just concentrate on that and work with passion. That's my, advice to the younger ones.
And how soon do you think India will become a gender equal society?
It's, I'll take a minute on that. If you really think about 800 years back, when we were ruled, but of course, our mothers, I remember my mothers, they were in pardas, they used to cover her head. But if you go back 800 years back, I think we were a very liberated society. And I come across so many, the books that have been written by those women, even Vedas were written by one or two Maitri or somebody like that. So we were, even during the freedom, we have seen the women who fought. We only hear of Rani Lakshmibai, but when you go down south or you go down northeast, you come across women who were already empowered. So, to think that we can't or we're just there. I don't know what else, it's only the lower section which has to be brought up. Otherwise, I think women are on the right path and we are there. I mean, I'm not very far from it, It's only that we have to get out of our comfort zone and work towards building the nation.
Absolutely. Anu Acharya, the concluding remark from you for, how to make India a gender equal world. Of course, we've seen there's been a sea change in what we were about 3 to 4 decades ago, as Mrs. Nijavan has pointed out. So we are on the right path. But of course, the kind of support, the push. So one woman is empowered and we now need to, pull out other women as well from our society. So as somebody who has come from a challenging journey, written her own success story, you are in a position, how are you helping the others come out of their comfort zones and do something different?
I think that, in part of my journey, one of the important things, and I think Sanjay also mentioned, was that you need to have the right mentors. Now, so I've had some fantastic mentors, and I think it is important to be able to find those mentors that you can in the ecosystem, both male and female, to be able to traverse that. But I think the other thing is, of course, they should do a genetic test. But the more important thing is that they need to find their passion and, like I say, lage raho, because in the end, entrepreneurship is a right, and you have to enjoy it because it is like a marathon. But you have to, if you don't have the stamina for it, you don't enjoy the ups and downs, then it becomes a very hard journey. But if you're somebody like me who truly believes and enjoys the little journey that you take to be able to get to the goal, I think then you can do it because you have the passion, you'll find the means to get it, right? So where there's a will, there is a way. So
absolutely.
In the end, that's what it is. But one thing that I don't want people to do is to not become an entrepreneur because of the glamour and because of the money. I think they have to solve a problem. And when we solve a problem, we make a better India. And I think the other big important thing, which I like the slogan a lot, is the Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao. I think that is the most important thing. If people are educated, if Betis start solving the problems, I think we will have a much better India to look for.
Certainly. Education and awareness, to say, has, of course, brought about a lot of transformation in our society. But there's a long way to go, as we've all discussed. Things have just gotten better, but to make it the best, it's a long, arduous journey ahead for all of us.
Yes.
So time is running out. With that, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of the program today. Thank you to all three of you for joining me on the program today, sharing your thoughts and also your inspiring journey with us and our viewers. It was indeed a pleasure to have you on the show today and interact with me about the various aspects of your very, very successful and inspiring journey. Pleasure having you on the show today. So that's it from us on this edition of Perspective Today. Thanks very much to all our viewers as well for their time. And before I wind up, I would like to extend my best wishes on the occasion of International Women's Day. Thanks very much once again.